I'm going live right now. The first thing I do is like share it and tag. So I'll share it to my page. I'll tag you from my main Facebook page, and you know, hopefully people will join us and ask questions. But la la la. All right. Good morning. Good morning to you. Look at this. All right, let's see if we're up. Are we there? Are we there? We're there. We're there. I love it. All right, where are we sharing? Share. Nope. Copy the link. This happens every week, Amber. I'm always like, got to do this little dance. Where
that would stress me out, but look at you. You are doing it.
Well, you know what, we just go with the flow here, and if you could see me, and the conversation is worth a little bit of you know, magic that has to get done in the beginning. So
yes,
join us for this conversation right now on at If You Could See Me Project. Not that is a different organization. All right. I know.
You're so funny. You crack me up.
And you are one of the best audiences. I don't actually think I'm as funny as you think I am, but it always is such an ego boost when I'm with you, because I'm like, she loves me, and that makes me happy.
You are too funny, Erin.
I love to be loved. Oh, it's such a difficult thing. All right, here we go. Look at this. One day I'll bring somebody on to do all of this technical stuff, but I like being in the weeds.
Do you?
Like being in the weeds. All right, we are ready to go. It's 10:01 and we are ready to go.
Awesome.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, to yet another weekly Saturday morning conversations with the members of our If You Could See Me family. That includes participants and professionals, peers, and doers of this work in their very own way to change the conversation around mental health, eliminate stigma, and take shame off the table. What would happen if shame was no longer an option? What if we chose not to accept it as the truth? What if we choose to rebel against its use as a tool for control, both for ourselves and for others? That's what I mean by taking shame off the table. In the negotiation around the boardroom of my life, shame is no longer an option. And I invite you each week and every day in all the things we do here at the If You Could See Me Project and in our Restory community to join me in that revolution. Today, I am really excited and honored to be joined by another member of our If You Could See Me family, Amber Maiden. Amber is a lawyer, an author, a writing teacher, a partner, a mother, a traveler, a light worker, and all-around amazing human. You can actually check out her If You Could See Me story on from our January 2020 show on our YouTube channel. And I'll share links to all the ways that you can connect with Amber in the show notes and in the comments here on this live. Yeah, it's interesting because Amber's show happened literally weeks before the whole world changed and shut down. I wonder what would happen if we brought the group back together to do a post-mortem on life after If You Could See Me. It would be interesting.
And it seems like 10 years ago, but yeah.
And yet 12 minutes. Something about 2020 makes it like that it was the year that never happened and the year that lasted a decade.
Yeah,
simultaneously.
Right. It's crazy.
Amber, you are a kindred. Like from the moment I met you, I felt like, I had met one of my tribe, one of my people. You are an inspiration and a survivor. And the reason that you're here today to talk to me, aside from the fact that I just love talking to you and I'm excited to have that opportunity, but right now in Virginia, we're getting ready to do a thing that I never thought would ever happen in my lifetime. Ever happen in my lifetime. And that is the legalization of cannabis.
Right.
And so you are working with a company out of DC on this initiative as a lawyer, because that's your day job. Your vocation is that you are a lawyer, and we can talk about like the history of your career and all the amazing work that you've done. But right now, this is something that you're doing. And, you know, I have a particular interest in sort of like alternative forms of treatment for mental health issues and medical issues and, you know, many other ailments. And you know, in my limited study of psychopharmacology in graduate school and my experience with psychopharmacology as a consumer of it, and also as, you know, a professional working in the mental health field, I know that the war on drugs has created a gap in our understanding of psychotropics and their potential benefits for many different medical conditions. And we've lost about 50 years of research and development in this particular area and replaced that potential, you know, with generations of injustice and incarceration, mostly, you know, impacting Black men and communities of color. And it's that alone has robbed our world of so much human potential. Right. So I'm thrilled. I'm going to stop talking now. I'm just so thrilled and honored that you're here, and you know, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. I'm so glad that you touched on that, because I consider myself a civil rights lawyer, and I usually work in equal employment opportunity. And this client was just sort of brought to me. But when I began working with her, I'm like, well, this too is a civil rights issue, because she's a Black woman who owns this cannabis store. And she was talking to me about all of the things that you were talking about. And I'm like, you don't have to tell me, you're preaching to the choir. I'm a civil rights attorney. So right. I understand that Black people and brown people are criminalized and stigmatized for this, whereas white people are not. I mean, white people have been working in this industry for years, and they've been the ones that have developed it, have worked on legalizing it because they could. And right now, you know, it's a booming industry, and I'm so excited to be in it. I wanted to talk first about how I even got involved with cannabis, because I used to be someone who was like, no, those are drugs, those are not for me. Like, I drank the Kool-Aid of that's drugs, and I don't want to do any drugs. No. So I come from a family of bipolars, and as I did in the If You Could See Me project, I say we run the relay where we're all passing the time to each other. You go, man. No, you go, man.
Your turn.
So my younger siblings love cannabis. They've always loved cannabis. And I'm like, I don't know, guys. But when I got cancer, I was in so much pain, so much of the time. I just wanted to die. And my sister, who's a big pothead, had this big blunt, is what she calls it. And she blew it in my face. She said, Amber, I want you to smoke this. It will help you. I promise it will help you. And she slams it down to my mouth. So I smoked the blunt, which in the hood is called loud. And loud, you know, has a different, white people wouldn't call it that. White people have names for the loud. There's all kinds of names and flavors for the loud. But loud is a very potent type of marijuana. And I couldn't believe, it was like a channel almost changed in my brain. And it did have a lot of THC in it. So I was high, which is to say I was seeing things, and I was, you know, having these like sort of hallucinations is what I call them. But I was my pain was so deeply relieved, and I just got relief from that pain. And so ever since then, I have been hooked on the cannabis with regard to the pain relief. That's, you know, what I want it for, because I did, as a result of the breast cancer, I had to have a mastectomy. And I have chronic pain on my right side of my body where I had the mastectomy that sometimes is just unbearable. I also have migraines, and you can relate to that, which sometimes the pain of those is just debilitating. Mm-hmm. And so I find that marijuana and CBD, cannabis products, work so that they work better than anything else I have taken to relieve that pain. Now, the psychotropic psychological benefits. I honestly don't know much about it because I don't research it, but they work for that too. I mean, I know that there's studies that have been done.
Well,
So
that's the big issue, is that, we don't know a lot about, the large, long-term effects of, cannabis and related products on, long-term mental health conditions, relief for mental health conditions, because we've lost the ability to research it, because we've never been able to, do it in any large scale way, in the same way that studies and trials are done on, all the thousands of psychopharmacological drugs that we take every day, like the brand
and
names.
and we have certain nefarious industries, I would call them, the prison industrial complex,
Yes.
the big pharma, that do not want cannabis to gain traction and legalization and have this huge wide availability, because it impacts their bottom line. And with regard to big pharma, I got issues with how they make their money, because I think they are the biggest drug dealers of all time.
Agreed.
I really do. I really do. And with regard to the prison industrial complex, you just want to put people in prison. It doesn't matter if they've done anything, because if you're smoking weed, you are so chilled out, and you're just like, if you're really high, you're not committing no crimes. So what is the deal? Why are all these people put in jail? It's just another form of slavery. That's all it is. I mean, someone said to me, we're going to look back on this time and be like, it was still slavery times. Black people were still enslaved. And I really had to think about that. I was like, wow, I think she's right. I think that we are. We'll look back on this and say they weren't free. They just, the system, the American system, found a back door and a loophole and found a way to get
it evolved.
Right.
It evolved, and it became less overt, and therefore more difficult to quote unquote prove, or you don't see it, you're not actually saying out loud what it is, like in the time of slavery and Jim Crow. It was so overt, and now and now it's not. Now it's, we'll gaslight you until the end of time that these things aren't happening, when it's so clear and obvious that they are happening. And and so it's an awakening, it's a moment, but so much is being said about the legalization of cannabis and the benefits of that to our society across the board. But less is being said about how much access and control or leadership should be made available to individuals in the Black community and Black people, because they have been harmed by these inappropriate laws for so many generations that is a form of reparations.
Oh my God. And there are just so many nefarious forces just trying to figure out, how do we let white people make money off of this and not have the Black people make any money off of it? Oh my God, that's just going on. I mean, I'm looking into the laws, I'm looking into the legislation, and let me tell you, it costs $1 million to get into this industry legally. $1 million. Why does it cost $1 million to legally get into this industry? Why? I mean, it's growing plants. So why does it cost $1 million? I mean, of course, I've always known Black people in this industry. Trust, I'm a ghetto princess. I have always known Black people in the industry. But at the same time, it's not legal. And so that's one of the things that I love about my client, Cannabis Karma, because she's operating in the District of Columbia. She's woman owned. She's in the industry for the right reason. So let me say, being from the hood, I know drug dealers. They got a certain kind of predatory energy, and I do not want to deal with any drug dealers. This client is in this industry for all the right reasons. She wants to help people with chronic pain. She was in the Army, so she wants to help people with the anxiety issues and the stress issues. And she knows a lot. She just has a lot of information about the various types of cannabis plants and what they do. And so when you come into her store for a consultation, she's going to tell you, well, if you have this, you need this type of product. If you have this, and everybody in her store is trained that way. So This is a client that I can stand behind, and that's very important to me because I'm a Libra and integrity is very important to me.
Right.
So I'm not gonna, be behind just anything or anyone. And you do have to be careful because the industry is growing and is doing all kinds of things right now. It's expanding. So you have to be careful with regard to who you're dealing with, who you're getting your CBD products with, because one thing that I learned at this Champs trade show conference that Princess took me to, which is where people who own shops like hers, they're called vape shops or head shops. So it's not just CBD, it can be nicotine, it can be anything that you smoke, really.
Right.
Is that you have to be careful as to who you're getting your product from because,
Sure.
it's a plant that does many things. Someone told me that the plant can absorb toxins in the earth. I didn't even know that. But once it does that, the plant should be destroyed. It should not be resold because it's going to have all those toxins in it. Still, there are people who buy those toxic plants and make products out of them, which is just abysmal. I mean, that's horrible.
Right. And so we have to know that we are in the sort of, we're in the Wild West right now, in this area. It is a brave new world and things are happening. And, while that's very exciting, you bring up an excellent point, and that is that we have to be really careful about the products that we consume, about the people that we listen to, about where we buy our things. It's always best to know the people. Don't necessarily buy the CBD products that you find in the little case at the grocery store or the gas station that they're selling.
Exactly.
We have in Richmond alone, we have several really wonderful shops that sell, all forms of edibles and lotions and tinctures and, all cannabis based, with THC or without THC, depending. They're ethical business people who know what they're doing, and they're members of the community.
Right. And that's important. That is important.
I was turned on to CBD oil, at least 6 or 7 years ago from another podcast, before I started this one. Charlotte's Web was like the initial, big one, and Charlotte was a little girl who had very serious chronic, ongoing seizures, many a day, 50 a day. So, so just many seizures every single day. And she was debilitated from this seizure disorder. And she was living somewhere where, these products weren't legal, which back then was most places in the US. And these brothers that ended up creating Charlotte's Web, I don't know all the down and dirty details, but they created this CBD product and provided it to this child, and her seizures stopped.
Wow.
And many people have these stories. It's not, I'm not a doctor. I always say that when I talk about this stuff. I'm not a doctor, but there's way more that we don't know, that medical science doesn't know. There's and it's not a cure-all.
Or maybe they know and they're just not telling us.
Very possibly. I'm not opposed to believing that there are, forces at work that, want to keep us from having all the information, especially in this world. No question. But regardless, there have been many people whose lives have been changed by these products.
Right.
And so, but because they weren't legal in most places, and because this industry is so small, the cost of it is often prohibitive for the average person. At this point, it's still cheaper in many cases to buy a pill from the pharmacy than it is to buy a 1 ounce bottle of CBD tincture for $150. Right. And so, as we continue to, see this industry grow and expand and, be more legalized and better represented everywhere, the hope is always, that it will become more affordable.
Right.
10, 15 years ago, you couldn't buy organic produce anywhere, and it was astronomically expensive.
It was.
It's still more expensive than regular produce, and that can be prohibitive to a lot of people, but it is far more pervasive now than it was then. And, same is true for organic products and gluten-free items and things like when we decide
Right.
to change something
Right.
in our society and make it more widely accepted, it can become more accessible to more people.
Right.
Not everybody. There's still a whole lot of inequality and wealth gap and, a whole thing that, I recognize, but the expansion is happening.
It is.
And it also has to be protected. So there's this like back and forth between making sure that we make things accessible and then also the pull to like, what is ethical? How do we do it right? How do we not, how does it not end up becoming big pharma and big ag and, all of it
right.
just sort
we
of like.
Don't want that. We do not want that.
Right.
So I'd like to talk a little bit about Delta 8 because Delta 8 speaks to the price. So
Sure.
If you have bought the cannabis, the illegal cannabis that is known in the hood as loud, which is to say it is a sativa. Look, typically loud is a sativa indica, and these are types of cannabis. It comes in two types. Indica is the kind that kind of just deals with your body more so, and then sativa is the kind that deals with your mind. Most people who are selling the cannabis, like in California and Colorado where it's legal, and they're selling it for recreational and medicinal purposes, you're going to get a sativa indica hybrid, and it's going to have a name, and it's going to be a nice name like cookies, Girl Scout cookies, or mint chocolate chips. And they name it these things because of the plants they're using. The plants have those kind of flavors to it, and every single effect is different. So California knows how to party. And when I was when I was getting my cancer treatment, I had someone in California who was looking out for me, and they're sending me stuff. And I ate this chocolate bar, and I want to say the edibles are different. I ate this chocolate bar, and every time I touched my skin, I felt like my skin was laughing. It was absolutely delightful. I felt so good. And I have no idea what it was because, they just sent me a bag. That was when, so they do different things. And then if you find something you like, you may never find it again. That's frustrating. But edibles are a whole different category. So let me just talk about the Delta 8, which is what I want to talk about. So Delta 8 takes the cannabis plant. It's a product. So Delta 8 is a product where the cannabis plant is taken and it's maneuvered in some way such that it has a low THC count. So whatever brand of weed that you like in the loud, the indica hybrid, indica sativa hybrid, you can get that in Delta 8 form. So you can go into a CBD store and it's totally legal for you to buy Delta 8 flowers that are named Zookies. Which if you have bought this recreationally in California or Colorado, you'll know what Zookies are, and you'll be like, oh, I want those Zookies in the Delta 8 form, which is illegal now. The thing about it is, again, you have to be careful because it's not supposed to get you high, but it just might. So this is a loophole that has been found where people are selling, the CBD stores everywhere are selling this Delta 8 and it's flying off the shelves because it is like legal weed. So it's like weed, but way cheaper because it's not been stigmatized. And the federal government is trying to catch up. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What did we do here? What's going on? They're freaking out. So they're trying to illegalize it. They're really trying to work on illegalizing it. This is what I was told at the trade show. They're working on illegalizing it. I think that, I don't know, like Delta 8, it's so new and it's so unknown. I tried to, and so Erin was laughing because she's like, it's your job to smoke weed. I mean, not smoke weed, but to consume these CBD products. And it is. I went to the trade show. I got all these samples of Delta 8 and I'm trying them out to tell Cannabis Karma whether I think it's appropriate for the store or not. And some of them work for me great in that they took away the pain that I have because I do have chronic pain. Like today, on a scale of 1 to 10, I call it 2. Sometimes it's like off the scale, it's 11. So it just depends. So I take that Delta 8 product. It could be in edible form. It could be in flower form. It just depends on how they're selling it. And what I found with some of it is that I have the pain relief, but I'm not high. So I could do my job. Now, if I was to smoke the illegal with a lot of THC, I would be too high to do my job. And that's no good to me because, I have to work. We all have to work.
Right.
But a product that completely relieves the pain and doesn't get you high, that's wonderful for me. That's what I'm looking for. So some of the Delta 8 products seem to do that. However, some of them, the edibles, you have to be careful with edibles because they're different and they hit different than smoking the flower. So I had these Delta 8 gummies, which were wonderful in terms of how they make my body feel, but they also got me, and not as high as like smoking or eating the real intense THC edibles would, not that high, but I was high. I was high, and I didn't expect to be high because I was out and about in the world, and I would never do that. I don't get high out and about in the world. So, that was a little disconcerting. I'm out and about in the world. I didn't have to drive anywhere, but if you had to drive somewhere, that would be a concern. I was with friends, so I was, sort of protected, but I didn't expect for the Delta 8 gummy to get me high, and it did. And then you get paranoid. Well, I get paranoid. I was like, I'm with my friends, but should I tell them I'm high? Say, no, I'm high. I'm going
Everybody knows. Don't you know that when you get high and you go out into the world, everyone knows you're high?
I feel like that.
Working really hard not to be high and not to look high. Right? That's how this works. It's been 20 years since I've been high, so this is a brave new world for me. But
so that was an experience, but that taught me you gotta be careful with these Delta 8 products. You can't just assume that they're fully legal and they're okay for whatever. Some of them are very potent, and they will get you high. So if that's not what you want, you just got to be very, very discerning and careful.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is that, and that's a really good word, is discerning, especially as we are right now. I want to make it clear that we're not here saying everybody go get high. Let's advocate for everybody getting high. We're talking about this is new, and this is, it's exciting in a lot of ways. It's scary in other ways. It's, it's unknown in many other ways. Do we want to be excited about it, or do we want to, be really, sort of cautious? And I think cautious is probably always a good way to be when you're talking about stuff like this. But you have to talk about it. We have to open the dialogue and say, we cannot allow this to continue to be such a taboo subject. Something that, you agree with it or you don't agree. You don't have to do it. And you don't necessarily have to agree with it being legal, but it's going to be legal. And you're going to be presented with the need as a society to adjust and adapt to these changes. Just because you don't agree with something doesn't mean that you get to shut down its reality. I know we live in a world where a lot of people want to do that and just reject the existence of a thing. But that's not how life works. We're adults, and we can do hard things, and we can come together and have, difficult, complicated conversations, which is basically what we do every week on this show.
If
we just talk about
that's what we do. That is what we do. The hard conversations. We love it. We love it here.
Right. Exactly.
But
I do want to go over, we've got a lot, we've got a fair amount of comments over on the Facebook group, and
I love this topic.
I want to bring some people in, and we have some new folks joining us from, various different places. So it's pretty exciting. First and foremost, I want to point out Chelsea Higgs-Wise has joined us. I'm Chelsea. I'm not sure if you're still here with us. Please, participate
Hi, Chelsea.
via the chat, as much as you want. Chelsea is the founder of Marijuana Justice in Virginia. She is an activist and an advocate, and one of my absolute heroes in a lot of different areas. She is a true badass. So she's doing a lot of advocacy work here in Richmond for the state as these laws are being passed. She's been a guest on the show several times. Chelsea, anytime you want to come back, you're more than welcome to come and talk about this and anything else you want to. but she's put a link in for marijuanajustice.org, and anybody who wants to follow, or it's all Black led work. And Amber, you should connect with her, but
Right,
we can all follow this process in Virginia based on the work that Chelsea and her colleagues are doing over there. So thank you, Chelsea, for that work, and thank you for contributing in the chat. Sherry Lynn says, I do THC gummies and just get the body high. It helps me when my other pain meds don't touch my pain. Chronic pain diseases and disorders can be helped with THC. CBD didn't do anything for me.
It depends. I think it depends on the potency, is what I learned at this conference, this trade show. So I was told that in order for the CBD to touch the chronic pain, you need to do like 1,000 milligrams. That's a lot of gummies.
Well, it's a lot of gummies, and it's also, those gummies are expensive.
They are ridiculously expensive.
I use a CBD gummy for sleep and for anxiety. It's better for sleep for me because to have enough to touch my anxiety, which is like off the charts, I'm just basically radiating all the time. It hits a point where it kind of knocks me out. It makes me really tired. Right. Yeah. But I do use it for sleep, and it's great for sleep. I've also used some of we have an organization that is affiliated with the Mental Health News Radio Network called PROS. And they do some great work, and they have some excellent products. They have some topical products that are best topical pain relief, because I have chronic neck and back pain and migraines.
This is awesome. This is what this guy gave you at the conference.
Yeah. So some of those topicals are amazing. What is that one called?
It's called the Helping Friendly Salve. I love it. I absolutely love this salve.
Fantastic. All right.
It's a topical.
We'll put all these tips and things out for folks to use. But they have a sleep one and a stay awake one, and focus one, and it's really, really great. So there are a lot of really excellent products. It's just a matter of finding what works for you, and again, using the products that are vetted and that you can trust, rather than don't buy the stuff in the grocery store.
Right. And I want to talk about, because you were talking about how people will shut the conversation down. So I had a conversation from a friend who went to prep school, and people who were running the prep schools at the time I was there were the WASP. And the WASPs are very uptight, very white people. But this is like one of my best friends, and she's a WASP, and she comes from that culture. And she was so upset that her nephew was involved in the cannabis industry, and she's just I'm just so upset. I said, it's changing, it's becoming legal, so maybe this is a way for him, to make some money, maybe not judge it so harshly. And she said, well, he's only 19. Now, I do think that when it comes to kids, when it comes to the young people, their brains are still developing. So that is something that we do need to be cautious of. And the kids, of course, love it. They want to do it because it's prohibited. But I think we need to have real conversations with our kids about if you're going to do this, do not drive. If you're going to do this, don't do these things that can cause you harm. And when you're doing it every day as a kid, because I know a lot of kids, because the world is so crazy, and because, they're having a hard time coping, they want to do it every single day. And I think that that's a problem. I do. That's just my personal opinion, but I think it's a problem.
Well, I think there are conversations to be had for anything that is done in excess. But our kids, conversely, and I don't disagree with you, but I do think it's a complicated conversation. And because there are millions and millions of children in our country that are on heavy doses of psychotropics and antidepressant, not psychotropics, psychopharmacological drugs, whether
I don't agree with that either, Aaron, but yeah, I hear you.
Not psychotropics, but antidepressants, ADHD meds, anxiety meds, all of that. And they take a lot of them. And in many cases, they're very, very heavy. and they have a lot of long-term side effects. So the question is, you know, where's the balance? And are we having real, you know, open-minded, open-hearted conversations in our communities about why we shut these conversations down? You know, I'm not saying that all of our kids should go out and smoke pot or do edibles or any of those things. I don't necessarily think that it's appropriate. But, you know, I also don't think that kids are, you know, teenagers should be having sex emotionally, but we know teenagers have sex. So we have to prepare them for the world that they live in and give them all the information. You know, I love the use of, you know, marijuana, you know, any product that has THC in it. I love the idea of being able to do that as a form of self-exploration, as a form of, you know, not necessarily, I mean, obviously I want to talk about it as a mental health treatment, but I also love it as a tool for self-exploration, as a tool for, you know, growing and expanding our consciousness. And so could we have those conversations with our kids and say, you know, can you do this in a more, you know, a more truly traditional ritualistic way? How can this help you expand your consciousness? And maybe some kids, most kids don't want to think about expanding their consciousness. My daughter always says to me, Mommy, and yes, she's 17 and she still calls me mommy, and I love it and I don't care.
I love it.
She says, Mommy, not everything is a learning opportunity. And I'm like, no.
Your daughter is so funny. She's funny like you here.
No, my darling, everything is a learning opportunity.
Having you as a mother, Erin, I think she might need to say that.
She absolutely did. I'm a lot. And I realize my allotness, right? I realize it. Terry Colton Brown on our Facebook comment says it hinders proper brain development for young adults under 25, as does alcohol. And we know a lot of young people drink alcohol. And she said, I agree, this needs to be researched as it refers to mental disorders. Absolutely. There's just so much more we need to know and learn, but we have to remove this stigma around it in order to be able to truly explore it. So Terry, thank you for that contribution. I love this this conversation. It's really hard, Amber. I don't know if you have this experience because you have worked in, you know, in the world of difficult conversations for your entire career. I know we are kindreds in that regard, but it's scary to step into this space and say, okay, we're going to talk about something that we don't know a lot about and that people have really, really strong feelings about.
It is. But yeah, you're right. That's my work. So I'm like, hey, let's go. This is what I do. But you're right. People do have really strong feelings for good reason, because we don't know a lot. And when it comes to our kids, we want to keep them safe. And I'm with everybody else on that. I have 3 sons and they are all in their early 20s. And so, yeah, I'm invested in what is safe for these young people. But we also have to understand that they live in a world that is very traumatizing for them. I mean, I have Black sons, which is to say they've seen Black men killed on social media. I don't know, far more than I ever did. I did see things like that growing up, but nowhere near at the level and at the intensity and the discussion and the replay like they have seen. We don't know how this is impacting them. So I can understand why these young people are like, I just need to get high. I just need to escape, because it's a really intense world out there. And I think what THC does when we're talking about this internal discovery, from my experiences of being high, I think that it sort of just changes the channel in your brain so that so the world isn't coming at you at like 1,000 miles an hour. And I don't know how it works. I have no idea. This is just my experience, that when you have that feeling and you have this feeling of well-being and the world just isn't at you. And so people are needing that, sadly, because the world is just so crazy and it's really impacting how young people are perceiving just the world and their place in it. I wanted to talk a little bit about the micro dosing of mushrooms, which it's called something else that I can't say.
Psilocybin.
So that's something else that people in the industry who are in it for the right reasons are into, because that has been studied. So I have a friend who actually did a study at Johns Hopkins where every day she was given this microdose of a mushroom, and she was told to then journal about how it made her feel. And that was a study. And I think it went on for like 3 to 6 months. So I asked her about it. I was like, well, how did you feel? And she said, I felt great. I felt like I was ready to live my best life ever. So
Yep.
that made me want to try it. I'm like really curious about the microdosing. And so the microdosing is illegal. Let me just say it's illegal because the mushrooms are considered, like, I don't know what the schedule is, but there's a schedule of drugs, and they're like one of the
They're like scheduled, they're not schedule 1, they're schedule 2 or 3, but it is illegal, and they are not,
right.
and there is a punishment for.
Right. There's punishment for you, the use of, or I don't know if it's the use of, but definitely selling the mushrooms.
Definitely selling and buying, and right.
Yeah, there's punishment. But they also have been shown to do this sort of thing with the anxiety, and it just changes the channel in your brain. And so the microdosing is just a little bit. And it's really big among like billionaires and the IT execs. They're doing it every day because they say that it like so increases their productivity. And one of the things that makes me angry with these drug laws is that we have these very, very wealthy people who are able to do whatever the hell they want with these psychotropic drugs, and they won't even get a hand smack. Usually you get when you're white, you get, and male, I say you get the white boy treatment, which is always a hand smack. Oh, you killed somebody? Smack your hand, white boy. But
right. You don't want to ruin your life.
No. White boy treatment.
Right.
But these people, they don't even get a hand smack for doing, this stuff that has been.
No, they're innovators.
Right, exactly.
Right. A whole different set of rules.
So, I always say to people, I want the white boy treatment. Give me the white boy treatment. When we are discussing or talking about anything, I know what the white boy treatment is. I want the white boy treatment.
Right. Well, you've worked in the DC area as a civil rights attorney for many, many years. So
I demand the white boy treatment.
Seen that world very close up, right?
And when I say that to people, they
right.
They know they can't really dispute me on it, so they just say, "Oh, we're gonna leave her alone, give her the white boy treatment."
Give her the white boy treatment, right?
I make too much noise if you don't, and they don't want that. So,
amazing.
Yep.
So the psilocybin to me is equally, if not more, intriguing than cannabis in treatment for mental health conditions in particular, because of what has been seen in the treatment of substance use disorders and PTSD and treatment resistant major depressive disorder. It's been very well documented, although not obviously as widely studied as it should be, because it's still illegal, right? And so it's really hard to get as much information as there should be. But I feel like there is a sort of treasure trove available there. In what might be possible. Did you experience the microdosing?
I did.
Okay.
And only once at the Champs conference, because it was made available to me and I wanted to try it. And how I felt was great. I didn't have, like, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, my daily anxiety is like at a 2 if everything's going well. It can jump off the scale too, but typically on a 2. When I travel, it's more at a 4 or 5 because, I'm in a different environment. I have to make sure this is right. Oh, do I have this? That. So, I had anxiety at about a level of 4 or 5. And so with the microdose, I found that all went away. It was wild because I'm traveling, but I'm just feeling like everything's going to work out and everything's cool. And I wasn't high. I just felt very relaxed. I felt very relaxed, but also very productive. So, I think that it works in the way that they're saying that it works. It can, it has some kind of effect on your brain where it also changes the channel away from that feeling of anxiety and feeling overwhelmed because, you know, when I travel, it's like I said, it just kicks the anxiety up a little bit because I'm just in an unfamiliar environment and I have to do all these things that I don't typically do. I was able to do all those things and just not have any anxiety about it. I was like, you know, going about
I
my
don't
life.
even know. I'm really called to it for myself personally. I have to say, it's not something that I've ever seen made available even through a study in Virginia. I know out west they're doing a lot of research on this, but it's something that I'm very interested in,
And I think
because my
it's
anxiety is so significant,
right.
and difficult to treat with medication.
Hmm.
um, it is something that's really intriguing to me.
Yeah, and I've heard, I talked to so many different people who know so much about cannabis and other things. Also, there are some other products out that are coming out that are legal that I don't know much about, but I was kind of cautioned against it. So at the trade show, there was a lot of discussion of this product called kratom, which is just used to get people off of heroin. So that's the benefits of it.
Sure.
The minuses are that it's addictive, like
Right.
heroin.
Right.
Very, very addictive.
Oh gosh, what uh what is the drug that people take? Mescaline?
Maybe. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, my brain stopped working. Please, if anybody knows the answer to this, type it in the chat, or send me a message if you're listening to this on the podcast feed, the word that I can't remember, but the maintenance drug that is used to treat opioid addiction, that you know keeps people off heroin. Um,
It may be that there are a few, I think, that
There are, and there's definitely more now, but there's one that people have been using forever, but it is also addictive. It's just, it doesn't get you high. And it's not, you know, oh, okay. I'm going to stop talking about that because that is not my area of expertise, and my brain's not working at the moment. So thank you. Please, I apologize.
but yeah,
Narcan, Rob, that's true. Narcan is the one that, or naloxone, those are the ones that that stop death. They stop overdose.
right, right.
But
I do know that.
it's not the one that's used as a maintenance drug. And I don't have my phone
I
because
mean,
I turn it off
it's
and I have these
so
conversations.
painful to get off of heroin. There
Yes.
seems to be like a substitute that is needed to help people
Yes.
make the transition.
Yeah, well,
But
there
what
is one, but it has its own, you know,
right,
difficult.
drawbacks, and
Right.
that's the same thing with the kratom. So it's a plant, and it's a plant that they grow over in Indonesia. So there are a lot of Asians who clearly weren't accustomed to being in America that were there selling this kratom plant, and well, not the plant, but the product that they have made from this plant, which comes in a powder form. Um, and I personally tried that. I didn't, it just didn't do anything for me. It probably made me feel weird, so I wouldn't mess with it. But it's supposed to be like more caffeine, more of that kind of, you need to wake up. You need to wake up and be productive kind of thing. So again, I would caution people to just be careful when we're going into like these alternative recreational things that come from plants, because plants are very powerful. I mean, they are the first form of medicine. So just because something comes from a plant, don't think that, oh, I'm good, I'm okay. Be very discerning. That's our word with
That's
all
our
of this,
word.
and study and be careful, because it can you just don't know how it's going to impact you and your body and your mind. So I think those are the kinds of conversations we need to have with ourselves as well as our kids, because they want to try it all, but it's all not cool. So you got to be discerning and careful.
What have you, I mean, like globally, not necessarily specifically about specific substances, but what have you learned most about, like what's the biggest takeaway for you from this experience working in this brave new world?
That these products can be used to help people, and that's what I'm interested in. Um, like I said, how I came to cannabis was through my experience with cancer. And that was such an incredibly painful experience, and it has so many different impacts on your body. For example, when you're going through chemo or radiation, there's no desire to eat, but you need to eat because you need to somehow maintain your body. So anyone who smoked marijuana knows that it gives you the munchies. So when you have cancer, it will give you an appetite, which you don't have. So there are just so many benefits to using cannabis when you are going through that treatment. And there are so many advocates, and that's how I got into the industry. I advocated because I am a cancer survivor, and I know it's like you're being tortured through the modern medicine treatment. And I think that it's just pure evil to try and deny someone some kind of relief and something that can help them to heal when they are going through what is absolute torture. And I take issue with the way the industry, modern medicine treats cancer. It doesn't make sense to me. I think when I'm going through it, I thought there's got to be a better way than this. I'm going to kill the cancer cells, but I'm also going to kill all the other cells in your body. I was thinking there's got to be a better way. And then when I started to research that industry and how people have tried to find better ways, but they were suppressed because Big Pharma wanted to make all this money doing it the worst possible way possible, I was really, really angry. So I'm really, really passionate about using cannabis in that way, because if you're going to go through the traditional treatment, which I was so upset when I found out I had to go through this traditional treatment. I looked for so many different ways, and I had so many different consults with different doctors, and I kept being told there's no other way for you right now. Like, I went to my acupuncturist and he said it's possible to treat this alternatively, but you are not ready. And he knew me, and he had been treating me for pain because I've always had chronic pain in different areas. And so he said, you're not ready and you're going to have to go through this traditional treatment. And I knew that he wasn't lying, but I literally cried. I cried because and you know, I'm not a crier. You're not, well, you don't, because I've been crying around you here. You make people cry. You got to tell stories. Our stories are hard. We cry. But typically I don't. I don't.
I love it that my moniker is Erin Mahone. She makes people cry. That's it. That's what I do. That's my purpose in life, is just to make people cry.
No.
It's all right. I've been crying my whole life. I'm glad to have people join me now.
So that's what I'm taking away from the industry. There are plenty of ways to get into the industry there's plenty of ways to do the right thing within the industry. And I want us as a collective to be stressing that, because there are people who are in it for the wrong reasons. They just want to make money, or they just want to be cool. And I think that those are the wrong reasons. I think that we need to be doing the research, like you said, and making sure that we're able to help people. And we found this plant can help so many people. I believe that it helps the bipolars because, you know, when you're bipolar, you have such strong emotions and it kind of dampens them. You know, it can help people with epilepsy who are having the seizures. It helps people with cancer. There's so many things that this plant can do. Princess says the plant is a oppressed plant, persecuted plant.
Yep.
That's what she said. She's very much into the plant itself as if it is a being. And she said it's a persecuted plant. It's a persecuted plant. So Princess is
though. She's
Cannabis
right.
Karma. And so she's for freeing this plant. So that's what her mission is, to normalize the use of cannabis and to stop the persecution of the plant, because it really has been.
So you just said something that was all of that is just so incredibly powerful. And, you know, when you're talking about the people who don't have the best intentions or the right intentions, or whose intentions are focused on not on the liberation of the plant and the liberation of the people from their lack of access to it, but instead of, you know, some sort of status or money or, you know, something that is not directly focused on the good of, you know, humanity.
Right.
And the way that, you know, I'm always going to bring it back to it, but the way that we as regular people can affect that is by learning, by getting involved. If you're in Virginia, get involved in Marijuana Justice of Virginia.
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely. Because
get
I've been
involved,
getting on these legislators in Virginia, and they, some of them answer my questions, but some of them just want to act like I don't exist. I don't play that. I will come to your little legislative chamber. I will.
Exactly. But more than anything, we cannot look away. Just like with mental health, just like with advocating for anything that's important in our world. If you look away, then very often the wrong people will unchecked be allowed to make decisions that harm us.
Yes.
If you don't want to have the difficult conversation about what cannabis is, about what it can do, and about the history of it, it's just like all the other taboos that we bring out into the light here and say, we haven't looked at it, so we don't fully understand it, and we've accepted the rules and the lies that have been fed to us about about racism, about mental health conditions, about, certain drugs that are illegal that maybe shouldn't be, about, poverty, about, any thousands of millions of other things that we are taught not to think about or talk about or challenge because it makes people uncomfortable. And so I have no doubt that I have made 1,000 mistakes in this conversation today. And this is more for like the larger audience.
And you're going to hear about it. You're going to hear about it.
and I'm okay with that. Like if you are listening to this, if you have experienced this, conversation on Facebook, feel free to reach out to me. If you have experienced this conversation on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever else you access this show, reach out to me, Erin at ifyoucouldseeme.com, or the If You Could See Me Project on Facebook, or the If You Could See Me Project on Instagram. Find me and challenge me. Talk to me about it. Educate me or tell me where to find more education. I want this to be exactly. I want this to be a space where we open discussions. I don't ever want to sell myself as the voice or the expert in anything. I am a person who is curious and who wants to bring things into the light. And so let's continue these conversations. Let's connect with people like Amber who, have expertise in certain areas and who are also connected with people who have expertise in their areas. And we're all coming together and we're learning from one another and we're asking the big questions and we're admitting that, a couple of weeks ago, we had a whole discussion here about how to apologize and how to accept accountability for, making mistakes when you're dealing with difficult subject matter. Right? Whether that is, committing a microaggression or misgendering someone or talking about a taboo subject that, that there's not a lot of information about, or that, you don't know everything about. Like, I accept that I am not an expert in this, but I think it's really important to continue the dialogue. So let's continue this dialogue together. Amber, I'm so honored and I always have the best time with you.
Laugh. It's good to laugh.
It is. And, it's we can have these conversations in light with lightness, right? We can laugh in the midst of hard shit, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, I want it to be very clear to everyone in our audience that I accept I don't know everything and I want to learn. And I also want to know, who and where and how and why, and, share with me your thoughts. Let's keep this conversation going. And I will continue to learn. I do not expect my audience to fully educate me, but, I also value your insights and your input and want to hear from you. I always love it when people, join these conversations on Facebook and they have these conversations with us. There are a couple of more comments that I want to look at. They've Rob and Terry, naltrexone, phenterphine, they offered as treatments for opioid addiction. mescaline is the one that I am talking about that is the most traditional. I am sure that they are, and I Googled it briefly. I am sure that there are others, but that is one that I'm talking about. I had a comment from Adam Castleton right in the beginning of our section, and he just of our conversation, and the comment is like being hidden right now. I'm not really sure why, because technology and Facebook and all that jazz. But Adam was talking about how he's utilizing CBD, and it's still illegal where he lives in the UK, and so
what? They
right,
haven't gotten on that CBD board yet in the UK. That's crazy.
right. And so I think that there's just more to be said and done, and I hope that one day we can all have access to whatever it is that we need to live our best, most successful lives.
Yep.
And that encapsulates so many things.
Yes.
Amber, where can people find you?
Well, I'm based out of Woodbridge, Virginia for now, but right now I'm in Florida. I move around a lot, people. Sometimes I'm in Richmond. I love Richmond. I think Richmond is actually my favorite place I've ever lived, because I've been living there for 2 years with my husband, who's a professor at Virginia State University. So I love that city. I really, really do. It's so cool. It's a really cool city. So, so where can you find me?
What's your website?
My law firm is called Alchemy Enterprises. So www.alchemyconsultants.org. I should probably put that. I don't know. Yeah, I'll put that. If I can, I'll put that in the chat so that you can.
I got it. It's already there.
Okay. All right, cool.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
So
I also do employment law. So if you got some employment questions about how you're being treated at your place of employment, you can contact me with regard to that as well.
So anybody that has any questions or interest in the work that Amber is doing, either around the legalization of cannabis or anything else that she does, she's brilliant. She wrote a fantastic book that I love, and she teaches writing classes with Life in 10 Minutes here in Richmond, and she does just amazing, wonderful things in this world. And I'm so happy and honored that the universe saw to it to bring us together. And
I was gonna say ditto. We are kindred. I just love this project. And I want to help out in any way that I can.
Thank you so much. Project. You are a magnificent human. Enjoy the rest of your time in Florida. And everybody, we will see you next week here at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for another amazing conversation with one of our very first, if you could see me, participants from 2017, Mr. Kevin Palmer, will be coming back to join us to talk about depression and suicidal ideation and, adult mental health issues that are relevant to many, many, many of us. So hang in there, and we will see you next week.
Bye, guys.